Hey guys, welcome to the Brofessional Development Podcast. Today is episode 85, and the topic is going to be catalysts for change. So we've got myself, Brad, we've got Joey Worth in here again, and obviously we've got Rich. And so today's episode, Catalyst for Change, we've talked about similar topics before. The reason this one popped up for me is because I just finished the Live Hard program, and it was my turn to actually pick the topic. I was reflecting on why I started, and essentially it was because I wanted to see change in my life. So I was thinking about this, and I feel that everybody at any point in your life is in one of three phases with change. You either just completed change, you're in the process of changing, or you know that you need to change, but you haven't done anything about it. So that's why we're going to talk about this. Let's get started on quotes. What do you guys got?
I'll jump in. So the quote I have is by Theodore Roosevelt. It says, if you could kick the person in the pants responsible for most of your trouble, you wouldn't sit for long. And I think that's because I'll kind of get into it a little bit longer or later on why I like that quote. Mm-hmm. But I just feel like you have to always be doing something different to expect a different outcome.
So I got one by Gail Shelly. It says, if we don't change, we don't grow. If we don't grow, we aren't really living. So I think that just speaks to you always got to be doing something different. You always got to be adapting to what's around you to make a good life.
Yep, I like that a lot. It almost sounds like if you're growing, you're dying, right?
Yeah.
To me, for mine, it was change is inevitable, growth is optional. John C. Maxwell, which I think was good. And so it actually made me kind of go back and think. It's like, okay, I was looking for change in my life, but I was looking for growth. And I think like those things go hand in hand when we think about like forcing ourselves to make change. So before we get into some of the main questions, do we have a book, a podcast, suggestions on things that could help us dive deeper into the idea of change or catalyst for change?
So the only thing I had was just something I saw that Jordan Peterson said. So I guess it could have been a quote too, but wasn't really. Are you
talking about the Jordan Peterson that you fell asleep during?
I did not fall asleep during it, but Kyle fell asleep twice.
That was Kyle.
Yeah, he fell asleep twice during it. Did you guys talk about that?
We didn't talk about Jordan Peterson.
Okay, so I'll jump in. So I was pretty excited to go to the Jordan Peterson show, which was like 2 weeks ago. I was excited because it was a lot of the stuff you see, like, you know, about being a father, just a lot of psychology stuff without it being like super deep. Mm-hmm. We got there and holy fuck was I lost. I mean, he started talking and it was very biblical, very deep psychology. And I'm not gonna lie, he lost me for probably a good half of it.
He's this combination of an academic, right? So his entire life is spent studying this stuff, and then a philosopher, which is none of us so fucking ever, right? So it's like I've never tried harder in my life to pay attention.
Oh fuck, dude!
And it was just like my mind would go for 15 seconds, and I'm like, how the fuck did we get to Abraham? You know what I mean? Like it was so tough. Like I actually journaled or took notes like afterwards about like, okay, let's just try to get what I can get out of this. But like it was one of the most difficult things to sit through and like follow along because every story he had to give the history of like every piece of the story.
Yes.
And it was just,
did you get anything out of it?
I'm not smart enough.
So to answer that, the last 10 minutes was everything I wanted. It was like he wrapped it, like I don't know if like a fucking buzzer went off. And he's like, okay, I got 10 minutes to finish this. Like, because it was basically a chapter of his book that he was describing. And it was, what was it? I can't even fucking think of what the topic was.
So it was abandon mentality
or something.
No, what is it? It's not abandon all beliefs, abandon all ideologies. It was a chapter in his new book.
So basically, he wrapped it up in the last 10 minutes. It was everything I wanted. It was really, really good, that part of it. But like that's what the whole hour could have been. And like what Matt was saying, like there was a very diverse crowd like that was there. Like it wasn't like, you know, the people you probably would have thought it was. And I'm just sitting there thinking like, same thing as Matt. Like I was trying so hard to like, I'm like paying attention. Like I was in fucking school and I just like would get legit lost. Like I had no idea what he was talking about.
What was the like, so I'm actually curious because I barely know about him. What did he bill it as? Was he like when he pitched the like when you click the ticket, what is he trying to sell? A business?
So it's just
plan?
lectures.
Yeah,
it's just lectures.
It was
So
literally a lecture.
He promoted his new book. So he's got the 12 Rules for Life, which was really big. And
It's
then,
like development stuff.
Yes.
Oh, I see.
So he was a Harvard professor. He's no longer associates with them, but like he was a Harvard professor, and that he got huge by he answered something on a quorum and got a lot, which was the original 12 rules or however many rules, and then he started posting some of his lectures on YouTube, and that's when he started getting really big. That talked about life and philosophy.
So he's like he has like a Christian angle, or
He's most that's what he knows most, but he tries to study all of them. But
Okay.
yes, a lot of it was talking about
The biggest cheer of the night was saying that a woman can't be a man and a man can't be a woman.
okay. So
To put in perspective.
I was trying to figure out because I know he's controversial and I didn't know why. So
but the thing is, he's like as far as political affiliations go, he doesn't necessarily subscribe to
I
one
don't
way.
think it was that way.
It's like so they call him like a what is it, like a something British Democrat or something like that is like what his actual affiliation is. And then I guess the interesting piece is like some like liberal or Democrats call him like a wannabe like a wannabe conservative. So he doesn't but some of his views are so like far one way that obviously it stirs up a lot of shit. And he avoided that for the most part.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
One of the things that resonated with me, and I kind of, like I said, I took a couple notes, was that he talks about this idea of God. He's like, God is in your, like, and I'm not a religious person, right? He's like, but God is in your life whether you believe in religion or not. He's like, what God really is like there's this human pyramid of like what's important to you, and like, and God is kind of what's at the top, and it's a set of ideas or principles or like moral, what did he call it? Basically like a moral authority that basically you believe is the top of being like the most ideal human, right? So it's like his whole thing was either you have one God and there's all these things that it's like lead up to like this is what I believe is the most important piece, or you have all these conflicting things where it's like, well, I think this is right, but I also think this is right. And then that's when it can cause chaos in somebody's life. So I like that. I did like that idea, because whether you subscribe to a religion or not, it's like everybody has something that they look up to, whether we label it a religion or God.
Yeah. So to get back to our topic, what I had for that was the greatest catalyst for change in the world sits between one's ears, is what he said, which I thought was interesting because then the definition of catalyst that I found was something or someone that causes a change. And basically that all goes back to you. Like you have to make that effort to take the action to make a change, because there's so many people that want to have a change but don't ever take the action to do so.
Yeah. Yep. That's exactly what I had. And because I've heard the term catalyst before, but I honestly had to look up the definition because I'm not a smart man. But
you're not a dictionary.
Something that causes activity, an event, or a change. So there's a lot of things that can do that. And like I said, it's like sometimes we sit there, we're stuck, or like we have things that we want to change in our lives, and we don't do this until something comes along. We talk about inspiration or desperation, but that'll lead me into a good question, which is like, for you guys, what are some of the biggest changes that you've made, and what were the catalysts for those?
I can start. Sorry, I was looking at my notes. So I would say like the biggest one was when I graduated college, I opened a business literally the day I graduated college. And so I went from being a kid, in college, partying with friends and doing whatever I wanted and having pretty much zero responsibility, to literally having employees, to having a building, to having a business that I had to be there for customers. And so that was a massive, massive change in my life. And then, eventually closed the business, partially due to COVID. And so I went from being, number one as a business owner, then to an employee, and, not the top dog and not being able to do whatever I want and go as I be. And so, some of the catalysts were career change and COVID and just overall happiness too. When I was a business owner, especially going through COVID, it's really hard to stay positive, when you're not selling a lot or you had to close down for some period of time. And so just being self-aware and trying to be happy. And so I would say those are some of the biggest catalysts for change, in my life.
Yep. Yeah. Brad, what do you got?
So I had two that I wrote down. I kind of separated it. Like I didn't want to have I got married, I had kids. Like those are like obvious ones that a lot of people deal with. One of them was when I got hurt. Basically, like my whole world turned upside down. I was depressed. All those like cliche things that I like never really wanted to believe in. I was. And then the second one is honestly this podcast. So like I was somebody who was probably more of like a fixed mindset. Like, yeah, I knew what I wanted. I knew that like if I worked hard, I could go get those things. But when we started the book club, that kind of like really ramped me up. From there, I feel like I've focused a lot more on the growth of myself along the way. Like I've connected with some people, like the association I have with Kyle, who I'm doing a lot of work for. That's stepped me up another level. And so I think those are the two big things for me, like blowing the hand off and being part of this group of people that I feel like it's really pushed me to a new level.
Yeah. I feel like the podcast did the exact same thing for me. Like it's opened up my eyes in a lot of different ways. But to get more specific, and because I talked about it, like the Live Hard program was a fucking change for my entire life. And here's the thing though, like I'm not like a diehard, like this program's perfect, right? Like I think that there's a lot of things in there that it's like, there's ways to make it more sustainable. And there's just there's a little bits that I didn't like, but here's what I do like, right? Like doing anything consistently for 75 days to start out is going to get you progress in any fucking area of your life.
Yeah.
Like whatever you want to, instead of 2 workouts, insert whatever area you want to improve in. And that's what it could be. So then the big thing that was a factor for me is like, it's probably no secret. And I think everybody's somewhat motivated by this. Like I'm motivated by what other people think, right? So utilizing social media, even though like have your opinion about it, but like understanding that I'm going to post this like, hey, day 1, day 2, day 3, day 4, and everybody knows that I'm going to do it is keeping me in the game, is helping keep me in the game. I like that. But, and then I did like a little bit of an audit. So it was like 177 days of 2 workouts, reading, following a diet, all that stuff. 72 days of habits that were important to me: meditation, visualization, journaling, budgeting, and building my net worth. Building my professional network, doing random acts of kindness, right? Here's one that is like never in my life have I done even close, which was like 25 weekends. It's essentially half a year, right? 25 weekends without alcohol.
Yeah.
That included 5 holidays and 2 weddings. Like I was in a wedding and didn't drink. And I was just like, this is fucking weird, right? But it opened my eyes to, like I said, it opened my eyes to a lot. And then the last one is over 2,000 pages read. So over 7 books in that time to do that. So it's like, I did that. Obviously, I saw a lot of changes in my life that, I don't need to get into too much detail, but the catalyst for that was like, I hit a point of growth and then stuck. And it was like, I wasn't doing the self-development stuff. I wasn't taking care of my body. I was drinking way too much, going hard on the weekends. I was playing in all these volleyball leagues where it was just like, hey, let's stay after till 10 p.m., 11 p.m. and have drinks. And it was just, that was more of a, I'm sick of going down this road type of deal, I guess was my catalyst for that change.
And so that kind of ties back to like my quote that I had, like about kicking yourself in the ass, like you're never going to sit down. That was like what opened my eyes for that was like, if you're not constantly changing, like how you're for X amount of days, you did something different, like you were evolving, you were changing to be a better person every single day. If you're not doing that constantly, you're going to be something or someone of the past, because like we're going to get to later is like literally everything is evolving daily. And right now it's evolving faster than it ever has in business and life. There's so many sources of information that you can grow quickly. That's what kind of made me realize recently that if I'm not constantly making an effort to be better, I'm going to fall behind. And I feel like there's a lot of people who are just like happy with what they have. They don't think that they need to take any more effort. Just like you said in the last episode, Joey, that you basically have been dedicating time to learn NFTs. Like not many people are going to be like, okay, I need to sit down at night. I got to dedicate X amount of hours to this so I can learn about it, invest in it, and make something out of it. A lot of people just are like, okay, well, I don't know enough about that, so I'm not going to take the time to do it.
Yeah, I think if you're not taking a mindset that, you want to change yourself or you want to change, your experiences in life, then you're just going to sit around and do nothing. I took it upon myself because I knew I wanted to learn a new skill, NFTs, and I also wanted to make money doing it, as an investment for the future of myself and my family.
And that's what I think is also interesting, because here there's an example of like a financial side of things that you want to like learn something. Matt's was obviously their financial portions behind it too, but there was also a lot more behind it. And I think that's where people seem to get hung up sometimes. Is like, yeah, this is like a business entrepreneurship podcast, but it's actually like this affects every single portion of your life if you dedicate the time to it. Like whether it's spiritually, relationships, business, your finances in general. If you take the effort to do something and make something of it, you're gonna see results.
100%. And yeah, don't get it twisted, because I guess I didn't really like. I like the physical aspects of it. Yeah, I got ripped and all that good stuff, and there was benefits to my business. But realistically, at the end of the day, I realized it was a whatever you want to call it, existential crisis, early midlife crisis. Like I was having like identity issues of like, what the fuck am I doing this for? Right?
Identity, like male female identity.
No, very 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 good on where I am there in those areas. But I was just like, what the fuck do I want to do with my life? Because I've got a solid business. I've got good things going, a little bit of real estate, right? Good relationships, great friends, podcasts that of growth-minded individuals. But I was like, well, what am I doing this for, right? Like, what am I? Yeah, I just thought I wanted to have a bigger impact. I wanted to make more of a, I don't know. But it was definitely, probably that's the biggest growth that I had out of it. And like we said, most of those typically come from either inspiration or desperation. I guess mine was kind of a little bit of a combination of both. So one of the questions that I had on this was, where are you guys right now? And this might not even be true. I just was like thinking about it, but like the three areas that you're at, either you just completed a change, you're in the process of changing, or you need to make a change but haven't done anything about that. Does that resonate with you guys at all? Would you say you're in one of those categories?
I honestly wrote in my notes that I resonated with all three. Like, so I work in IT consulting. So although I work for one company, I go to different businesses and consult for them. And so I just switched to a new engagement like at Edward Jones. So now I'm going through a whole new change of a whole new business I have to learn, a whole new project, a whole new role. And so, I completed a change from going to one engagement to now. And so now I'm in the process of that. And three, I put, I know I need to change, but I don't know anything about it. I really wanted to get better with my fitness. I see you post all the time about 75 Hard. And so, I feel like I'm fairly well. I ride my Peloton every day, but, I could do a lot more, and I know I have the time to do it, but I'm just stuck there not doing it. And so I feel like that's why I put, I'm in all three of those.
Sure. Yeah. And it makes sense, right? It just depends on which area of your life you're probably talking about.
Yep.
So for me, a little bit of what Joey said as well. So I think I just got out of like, I know I need to make a change. And now I'm in that process of changing. So we've talked a lot about my business and like how I need to hire, like if I want to scale the way I want to scale, I need to hire employees, need to get machines. And I've kind of like, just been looking at the bank, and I kind of like what I see. So it's like, I don't really want to like throw that money at the, that I need to. And just like in the last month here, I've spent a substantial amount of money on new equipment that's automating the business. Just bought another machine yesterday, looking at a third machine next week. And so that's where I'm changing right now. I'm throwing a lot of effort into how can I automate my business to like take a load off of not only me, but my employees, where we're not sitting here running around the shop doing tasks that like a machine can do for us. So that's the process I'm in right now. I'm definitely changing. Like Dan's gave me shit about it a lot. Like, why haven't you fucking done this yet? And I think I texted you guys yesterday and said, I've came to the decision, like I did have a goal at the beginning of the year of I wanted to open up another business. And that was just solely because I wanted to kind of diversify and like, I don't know, maybe like a flex, like, oh, look, I own 2 businesses. And I kind of realized like, I can make way more out of what I'm doing right now if I put my nose down and focus than spreading that between 2 different businesses and trying to grow another one or take the effort to find one to buy. That being said, I am looking at some property that has a business in it already, but I feel like that just supplements the business I'm in currently.
Well, technically, we filed an LLC for Brofessional Development, so you did start another business.
So if we have to get technical, that we check that one off. Yeah.
Interesting you say that. It's like, and this just popped up because you said that. I'm going through changes in my business. Numbers aren't where I want them to be in terms of revenue, but what I do see is like the long term, like my strengths lie in innovation, in like clearing obstacles for my employees to make them successful. So it's been all utilizing virtual assistants, and Dan's been killing it with this in terms of like, which is what we've learned from like we had a partner, not a partner, like a company that was doing some email marketing for us, and we're just like, you can be good for other companies, but you're not good for recruiting companies because of X, Y, and Z. So it basically took their model and started using it. And now I'm also using it on the recruitment front. And I was like, okay, so I've got VAs doing these like email marketing cadences, doing like LinkedIn outreach, like this whole step-by-step for my people, right? And then I've got VAs on the other side. It's like reaching out to candidates. So we're finding who's great, and then it's developing a cadence through email, same thing, all this stuff. And then my recruiter sat me down, and he's just like, hey, he's like excited about the new change. He's like, we do the power list every single day. Oh, we talk about that. And he's like, how do you want me to, like, what do you want me to do? I'm like, I guess I just realized that I literally eliminated half of his day on doing stuff.
Yeah.
So, which is a good thing, right?
Yeah.
Because he wants to make, let's say $100,000, or he wants to make X amount of money. Well, I sat him down. I'm like, okay, they're doing all the $5 to $10 an hour stuff. Now you can focus on doing the
$500 an hour stuff.
The $500 an hour stuff. Exactly. So it's a change for sure. Like understanding, like getting rid of like the old mentality of like how typical agencies run. But like you said, it's in the short term, it's probably going to affect the bank account, right? Because I'm not out there fucking recruiting, pounding, I haven't pounded the phones in years, but like I'm not out there recruiting and at the front lines doing that shit. But what I realize is like the more I can build this out, the more I can build myself out of a job, the more I can put people in place and just continue to solve problems to make things better and more efficient like you're doing with your shop.
Yeah, and that's like the same spot I'm in right now. Like my goal now is like I want to be in a position that I can hire like a general manager that can take my role of day-to-day activities, manage the company, and I can focus on the growth of it. I've been associated with some people here recently that have a lot of really, really great businesses, and it just motivates me. It's like if these people can do it, I can do it. I want to get to a pretty big number. I want to get to that level, and it's not going to happen by doing the same thing every single day.
Yeah, and it goes just with thinking bigger. And like we always talk about, just surrounding yourself with people that are fucking doing it already, or at least striving to do it.
Yeah. Does anybody have anything for like the biggest changes going on in the world right now?
Oh,
I would say I'm kind of just beating a dead horse with it, but I would call it like the great divide. You see on social media between, it's what political party you're at. And it just feels like people are constantly going at each other, and it's one big catalyst for change and who wants to do what. I just think that's just a massive change. And it's been going on for a long time, but it's just constantly getting more prevalent, you know, especially now that we see with Elon buying Twitter, it's only going to continue to change more.
So that is something like I try to like, Matt hates when I talk about politics, but I think what's happening right now is going to be very good for the country. I think what we're going to end up seeing here with, like you said, with like all this political divide is I think we're probably going to see like a third party start to strive. And I think that's maybe what the country needs.
I'm good with that. And here's the thing. It's like, I truly believe like most like Republicans aren't staunch Republicans. Most liberals aren't like far left wing, right? I believe, and actually Jordan Peterson talked about this. He's like, I believe that Democrats and Republicans like actually have a lot more in common than like they do within their own party of the far wingers, right? And I don't know too much about politics, but what I do know is like, yeah, I agree, because there's like such a divide right now, but also people are realizing there's a divide when it's like, hey, I kind of agree with some of the stuff that you're saying, but I have to pick a side.
I mean, that's
I think the news and social media amplifies the far left, the far right, and we don't get to see always and hear the stories of those in the middle, like you guys talk about.
Yeah. And that's what I think is interesting. Like you just said, that's exactly what I was going to say, is I feel like there's a lot of people who are like straight down the middle that are kind of lost in the whole situation because it's so flooded with like far left views, far right views. We don't hear about like the stuff that's in the middle that people actually would probably all agree on.
Yes,
yeah,
exactly. But again, like you said, it's like with news and media, it's just like everybody has an agenda. So, and if you want to keep a job and you're a news anchor on there, you've got to push whatever that's going to be. Yeah.
And that goes. The only thing I have to say about the world changing is I think technology is moving faster than ever. And hopefully with, like you just said, Joey, with Elon buying Twitter, maybe this is like a step in the right direction of like making everything transparent again, where the news is just the news, where it's not as opinion based. And I think it'll be good for the country.
For sure. Yep. Cool. Well, we appreciate you guys listening. And like we said, if you want to follow us, we are on Facebook. We are on Instagram. We're actually on TikTok as well. Subscribe on every major platform. And if you like us, share the podcast and write us a review. Otherwise, like I said, we appreciate it. And we will see y'all next week.
See you guys.
Deuces.